Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mr. Clark After Dark. Today I actually have part 2 of my episode with Ben Simmons. I decided to break this one into 2 different episodes because we actually go very deep on our experiences with losing one of our parents to cancer. I lost my father when I was 22, and Ben lost his mother, I believe he said when he was 20 or 21, or somewhere in his early 20s as well. On the episode, we go pretty deep into our experience with cancer, and we kind of just really open up. Ben and I we kind of both agreed that it's almost better to be a little bit open about this stuff because it can be, it's very deep, hits very hard for a lot of people. But some of the main things that we actually talk about is kind of like going through the experience of cancer and seeing the humanity of your parents, kind of like changing and seeing them as a human, how discussing them as a way of keeping them alive. Talk about how people kind of guilt themselves on things that they could have done differently or that they should have done differently. The kind of moments we find out, like the exact time that they're actually going to pass away today. We talk about like results weekends and things that you would actually see, like these weird experiences and routines that you build when you have a family member with cancer. His mom actually passed away on December 19th, and my dad passed away on December 20th, not in the same year, but going through the process of cancer and actually then finding out and like experiencing that first Christmas, like literally 4 or 5 days later. It's just a wild experience to kind of go through. It was not fun, but definitely very enjoyable kind of talking to Ben today and going through that. So I really hope you genuinely find something of value from this show if you've gone through something similar, or maybe it can help you kind of empathize or relate to other people that are kind of going through this day to day. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show today and enjoy. What is it like to see your parent as like a human for the first time? Because that was kind of the weird part for me. Like you always had this idea of like, oh, like my dad's like superhero, like they're gonna live forever, blah blah blah. Like what was it like seeing your mom like sick for the first time?
That's the thing. That's where the perspective of it was more when she died, was realizing things, because man, she had cancer for 17 years. So I was 3 when she was diagnosed. So I don't know my mom outside of cancer, which was the crazy thing, right? I don't know my mom outside of cancer. Which was, I always thought she was superhuman, and growing up with that is like, I never thought she was going to like pass away or anything like that. That was like,
but you just assumed this was just how this was going to go on forever.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so my mom had, she started with breast cancer. She had lung cancer, bone cancer, and I think she had 4 types, but, that was just over a process, like a long kind of years. It was always something. It was breast cancer. The next was it spread, and it was like bone cancer. Yeah. And that's where Jacob was kind of the older brother, and he kind of, I was just so kind of blinded, and I was the younger child. So Jacob kind of knew what was going on as he was like when he was older, but I was completely blind to it. So growing up, I never thought that kind of stuff. Like my mom's going to live forever. And I was used to the process. I was used to, she would like get her chemo, and then she would go every 3 months, she would go get tested. And then after her test, she would get her results. And I remember those results weekends were always really big, because it was like, it's either going to be like, yeah, there's nothing, or
we just have to go through it again.
Yeah. Here we go. And that was the thing and she had so many times where something had happened. Cause I remember grade 3, she had a spinal surgery. And then then grade 6, she got it back again, I think. And then grade 9 during the fire, she had, like probably one of the scariest times with her cancer. She had because of her spinal surgery, she had these rods in the back, and whenever she was getting her x-rays or whatever they were, there was a tumor kind of hidden behind the bars, they couldn't see it. So it was the craziest thing, man. Like it was like the Fort Mac fire was going on, so everybody was like,
everyone's on high alert.
And meanwhile, all this stuff, my mom was like in excruciating pain, and it had become so normal for her because she had been going through it so long, and nobody knew that there was a tumor like compressing her spine. And so then this is all the while I was playing Team Alberta basketball. and we were in Edmonton, and like it was just a crazy summer. But like the fire doesn't even seem like anything to me and our family, because like I remember like just seeing my mom and the way she was, and then that like there was just, I was so used to that, like you get a call and it'd just be like, gotta come to the hospital, your mom's this, and it was just like, oh, this again. It wasn't even like like it wasn't even,
you didn't even feel the drop anymore. Like,
yeah, we were so
bit.
accustomed to it. Like I grew up with it. I like, it was almost every 3 months I was prepared. Like if she's going for her test results, I'm hoping that it's good. Mm-hmm. It's most likely going to be good, but if it's not, then we go from there, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So,
and how old were you when she passed?
20
years old.
Yeah.
And so, because when we worked together, you were 19, because it was after that, right? Yeah. Because my dad had cancer, I think, at the same time. Yeah. While we were going through it. And
so your dad passed.
I was 22.
Okay.
So I think it was within 6 months of that summer that we worked together.
Right.
But yeah, so like what happened? So your mom, like, it goes 17 years, and like even the fire was, 8 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So like how did things like worsen toward the end?
Yeah, man. So
if you don't mind.
No. I honestly think like a lot of people, I was like, my brother and my dad were asking me, and my girlfriend were asking me, like, what are you going to talk about today on the podcast? I was like, oh, probably my mom. And then they're like, are you going to be okay to talk about that? And I was like, yeah, like a lot of people keep this stuff private, and respect to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find talking about my mom is a great way for me to connect with her still.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And I don't think it should be like a hard thing to talk about. It is. Mm-hmm. It is. And I struggled with that stuff. We could talk about that stuff too.
And honestly, I've had the same, like people will, like they'll ask me a question and I'll go into like the deepest, darkest detail. And they're like, holy shit. Yeah. I'm like, honestly, man, like I'm just trying to, like, I'm not trying to hide anything.
Yeah.
It's like people go through cancer, but I think there's like where you and I were so close in age, mm-hmm. like when like our parent passed and like seeing their decline.
Yeah.
I think so many people aren't prepared for the like abruptness of it. Mm-hmm. Like I think you think, and I guess maybe a little bit different for you a bit because you had like 17 years. This was kind of normal.
Your dad was diagnosed and it was quick.
Well, so he had cancer 3 times over 6 years.
Oh, okay.
And that was, but like the first time it was like you have it in he had it in his colon, mm-hmm. and they I think we were always kind of being, as a mom would do, or like a parents would do, like they're trying to like not tell you everything. Yes. Like if they say, so I'll tell you the craziest part, but anyway, like we're kind of being sheltered a bit. But the first time it was, the tumor had breached his colon, mm-hmm. and so it was in his lymph nodes. So it had like, it was about as early in stage 4 as you could get. Was mm-hmm. kind of, but stage 4. It's still stage 4.
Yeah.
So they cut it like 10 inches of his colon. Damn. In that surgery. He lost his belly button. We'd always joke about that because they cut him down, like slice him right down the middle. And when they sewed him up, that was fine. 3 years later.
It's 3 years, man. Dude, it's weird.
Everything comes in threes. It's crazy.
It's weird.
And well, even as you said, the grade 3, 6, and 9, that's all your PAT years.
Yeah.
And that was kind of interesting to me of like, well, maybe like your anxiety about testing, like a weird connection that can kind of come up with that.
Yeah, man.
But when the second time he had cancer, it was in his lung. Mm. But when they tested the cancer, it was like colon cancer. Mm. I don't know how that works. I guess like the type of cancer that was in it was like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be an endocrinologist. I don't know. I don't even know the names. There's so many doctors and stuff that you come into contact with when you're doing that.
I mean, I know that's the same thing with me. I know she had cancer. I know where she had cancer. There's obviously way more specific things to what was going on.
Yeah.
But
yeah. You know. And so the craziest part, I think about like the weird thing, I lived with my parents through all of university, and we were living in Airdrie, and the first 2 times he had cancer, so the second time he had cancer, again, it was just like a procedure, cut the piece out of the lung, no chemo. Maybe like the biggest, I think people don't think about how much they guilt themselves for things that you could have done in the past to like maybe change it. I think that's like a lot of people struggle with that. I really don't. So I'm like, we did the best thing we thought at the time. Like there's no, not that like there's no point in dwelling on the past, but you're only just going to make things worse for yourself if you do that.
If you live in that regret, especially dealing with stuff like that, it eats you up. And like you said, like you didn't know, like you were doing what you thought was the best in that moment.
And you're being advised by doctors all the time, and you can only do so much. But the third time we find out, it was very strange. And it was almost like he had went for blood work. We were going to get results. And so the first time my parents found out we found out my dad had cancer, I had driven them to the hospital. So I had driven them to the hospital and we went in for results, and it was the three of us the first time he had cancer. So he's 45 at this point, 44. I've never gone to any appointment with them. I've never gone to any time. I didn't drive them any time to get blood work. I only drove with them 2 times. And the 2 times I drove with them were the times we found out his diagnosis. So the first time we go in, they basically say like straight up, like you have stage 4 cancer. And we were just like, what? Like we were going for like a blood work results. Just like he had a gurgling in his stomach. And that's why he wanted to get it checked out. He's like, oh, something's going on. He's like, oh, I just need some more insulin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your dad, like, nothing, just need to eat a bit more meat and more moose steaks. And And so, we find out that he has cancer, and it was kind of just like a silent drive home.
Right.
And but the feeling I had driving home, my mom was a wreck. My dad's in the back seat, just kind of like contemplating and whatever, like just like doing a dad stew. You know what I mean? Just like thinking,
what are we doing here?
In his thoughts. And the feeling I had driving home that day, 5 years later, when we brought him an Airdrie to go get results, I had the same feeling. Like before we knew, there was like a weird, like I remember thinking, like I grabbed like veggie sticks to bring with me in the car because I was like, this is going to be a long meeting.
Yeah.
Like I brought food with me because I like had a feeling it was going to be a longer. Now I'm not saying I like predicted it or whatever, but like I mean, maybe I shouldn't have just driven with them. But we get there, we walk in again. It's my dad sitting here, my mom sitting here, and I'm sitting right here. And the doctor's where you are. So my parents are right here.
Right.
And they're like, you have cancer again. And it's stage 4, and it's in your lung, and it's spreading. This was from being cancer free to hearing this. It's actually the same day my brother had his first kid in Fort McMurray. Jesus. And so we're in the doctor, and like, so they're getting ready to like, I'm going to drive them to like a flight like later that night to fly up here.
Right.
And so trying to be like the bigger man, not a bigger man, but trying to like
stay strong,
just like fight through it. Like I asked the question that no one else wanted to ask. I said, so what does this mean in terms of like plan and like overall like life expectation? I said 10 months.
Jesus.
I was like, that was rough. And like seeing like my dad, it was the first time I've seen him like put his head down.
Right.
And just be like he thought he was like in the clear, like thought he was just going for it again. And I think that was in February. And they said 16 months to 2 years. And he passed in 10 months.
Wow.
In December.
It was aggressive.
It was aggressive. And like we tried like chemo and radiation and stuff. But I think like I guess this might be a stupid question, but like what was the most difficult part of like the week leading up to your mom passing?
Man, so let me tell you the story. The stuff that you were saying, it's crazy how everybody's life's different. Everybody's story's different. Your story with your dad is very much different than my mom. And it's crazy how I can still connect with you because those moments when you have those little feelings and you remember the littlest things. So the first time, I had never been there for any diagnosis. Obviously, I was very young. Yeah. But the one time, I don't know what they were thinking when they get back to it, but I mean, I was an anxious kid, and I don't think it was grade 6. I think it was grade 5. Now that I think back to it, and I remember we went to Edmonton, and they said, "We're gonna bring Ben. We're gonna go. Like Ben, let's come with us because I don't think Jacob probably wasn't there or something." Yeah. So we're gonna bring Ben, and they brought me to the Cross Cancer Institute.
Yeah.
And of course, the one time they bring me, I remember I was 11, 12. And I mean, it's like super like, you know, and I remember just sitting there and then like, I was like, is this what as usually goes on? And then I remember being brought into the room and looking at my mom and she was bawling and I see the doctor. And then like, I was like, being a kid, you don't really know what's going on, but you see your mom crying. So you start crying and then she had been diagnosed again, or not diagnosed, but it had come back because my mom was never cancer free. She had cancer that like, I don't understand it because
like how did that, because I've always like wondered, and then obviously, you don't just ask like, how did your mom always have cancer? Like,
I think that the tumor,
like it just,
so
this
was the path. I believe she had the stage 4 breast cancer. And then it spread. When she got it back, there was over 100 spots on her.
It's always the spots too, eh?
It was on her skull, her spine, her lungs. It would just spread everywhere.
This is when you were 11 or 12?
Or was this like was
Oh
no, that was when I was in grade 3. Yeah, that was when I was in grade 3 because that was when she had to get her surgery, I believe.
Okay,
I don't know, man.
No.
It's crazy.
And we kind of like, again, we always try to like, you assume you have the narrative in your head.
Yeah.
Then you actually talked about it and you're like going 5 different places.
Well,
so
man,
like,
it just happened so much for us that it was just,
especially your like overall period.
And I was so young too. So like, and you, like you said, like your parents are like, no, she's fine.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like it's gonna be.
Why do we keep going to the hospital?
Like, what do you mean my mom has no hair? You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
like,
so I didn't know she lost all her hair.
So that was the craziest probably thing was whenever I was really young. Like some of my youngest memories was my mom, like just stereotypical chemo patient was some of my youngest memories of my mom. Then she had to go through that again. And for a man, it's hard. For a woman, I believe is even harder,
like,
you know,
like your femininity is kind of like,
like your hair, all of your hair, you know, like that is an extremely hard thing for.
So I'm going to tell you a super embarrassing story. Just quick. Sorry.
Do your thing.
I still like, I told my class about this week. And because one of my students shaved his head and like he had like longer hair. And so I've always had like major hair insecurity because like my brother buzzed my head when I was in grade 8 and it looked like shit. Like I did not look good. Like I got this like weird hairline here where it kind of goes jagged. Like it's not a good buzz cut hairline. Like, honestly, I feel like you and Jacob kind of pull it off, like the more the buzz look. And like Jacob always had a buzz cut. Actually, I saw the picture of him with hair like recently. Yeah. Oh, this was probably a couple years ago.
He was a buzz cut guy though.
But yeah, we say recently, but again, it's been like 6 years since we worked together. But my 2 brothers always shaved their head.
Okay.
And so when my dad didn't lose his hair, but it was starting to thin a little bit. And he always had super short hair. So he just ended up shaving it bald.
Right.
And my 2 brothers did it. Like with him, and I just looked at him dead in the eye. I was like, "I love you, but man, I'm not doing it." I'm so sorry. Like, I mean,
I support you, but no chance. Sorry,
I'm gonna be here with you every step of the way, but with my hair combed, with hair like I don't know,
my luscious hair.
Yeah, sorry, go on. So I don't even know where we're going. But,
so where were we going?
Your mom diagnosis, losing hair.
Losing hair. Yeah, so she lost her hair twice, and then during the year of the fire. That I mean, the technology's advanced from when she got it the first time, and the chemo that she could use would just attack the tumor directly rather than all the white blood cells, right? Yeah. So she didn't have to lose it. That was probably the hardest thing, and people don't understand about her during those time periods. Is like you probably never met my mom, but
I never did.
Teachers that know my mom, I believe she's like a very happy, like very uplifted person, and you can ask anybody, like literally the sweetest soul. And that was probably the hardest part was people didn't understand that like she didn't look sick. but like at home, people don't see what she was going through at home, right? She was a cancer patient, and just because like she still had a tumor she was still going to chemo every 3 weeks or whatever, and people don't understand that she just looked normal, kind of thing. But
and like toward the end, like when did you kind of find out about
right? So
like the. Because I remember the day of for hours. I thought we were going for just like it was December 20th when he passed. So like Christmas is like
you're
a couple
joking.
days away.
My mom was December 19th.
Dude, are you serious?
Yeah, bro. That's insane.
So the 19th is when we took him to the hospital, and it was the next
day. Okay,
morning.
so my story's kind of. So basically, I was at York.
Okay.
I was at York,
yeah.
and Christmas is never the same. Obviously,
No.
never the same.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's Christmas, but it's not Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's weird because that feeling, there's that feeling, right? You like you were talking about. There's that feeling, and my mom had gone to go to her tests, I think in November, and she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't. There was something wrong. So that they remember they were driving back from her test from Edmonton, and they turned around and went back because of her breathing, and there was something wrong with her.
So it was like that quick.
Well, that's the thing. So it wasn't anything though. It was that, and then it was nothing. I think it was either in early November or a couple weeks, but then a couple weeks, and then the main thing, like everything started to go downhill. And I remember thinking, so they called me and they said like nothing's wrong, of course, and but there's something. There's your mom. You're like she can't breathe properly. We're going back to the doctor, and I remember thinking like. Being there in my room, I was like, that's weird.
That is weird. Yeah.
You don't just, like...
You don't just turn around.
There's always something, like people will be like, oh, I didn't know. Or to me, like with my mom, there's always a tell. There's always something that like things don't just turn. She don't just not breathe, can't breathe for no reason kind of thing. And I don't know. But anyways, so she couldn't really breathe. And I was like, that's weird. And then either a month or a couple weeks go by, and it's funny. It was my boy's birthday. That I was my roommate and my teammate back in York, and we had his birthday party. So we went and turned up for his birthday party, and then my flight was on the 8th, I believe. Yeah, the 8th or the 9th, and I was getting ready to go home for Christmas after being away. This is my first real college semester away from home, and I was like hyped. I was like, and my flight was at 6 a.m. or something like that, and I had to go to Pearson, so I was like, I'm gonna just stay up because I don't want to fall asleep and like wake up at I'm just gonna stay up. And me and my boy, it was his birthday too. We were like, you know what? Let's just stay up and game COD Zombies. So we were just on Zombies, and we were just playing. And I was waiting for my flight. I was getting ready for my Uber, and then I remember I got a phone call from my dad in the middle of the game, and I paused it, and I remember I picked it up. And when I was a kid, I cried when my mom got diagnosed, but I remember he called me and then he said like, hey, like there's something wrong with your mom and she's getting medevac to Edmonton. And I was like, when he said that, and there was that feeling, and I remember I just lost it because I've always held it together. But when he said that, there was just that feeling like,
it was like realness is the wrong word, but like a visceral.
Yeah, like I don't know what it was. I can't explain it, but it was that feeling like this isn't good kind of thing. This isn't good. This is weird. This isn't normal. This isn't how things usually go. And I had to fly home. Thank God. I had to fly home to go see her. Like, she was going to pick me up from like literally in a couple hours. And then it went from, you might not see her. You're going to have to come home. Then you're going to have to go to Edmonton. So when I got home, thankfully she hadn't been medevaced because it was either snowing or and I got to go see her in Fort Mac before she went to Edmonton. And so I got there the 9th, and then it was from the 9th to the 19th was we left. My mom got medevaced to Edmonton, and then it was 10 days, and then she passed, which was...
She passed in Edmonton?
In Edmonton, which was... And it was so quick, and it sucked because I'd been away from home. So, and when I got to see my mom, she wasn't my mom. You know, she wasn't there fully, and it was scary. it wasn't a very peaceful passing, you could say. It was long, and it was very up and down. It was.
So what do you mean by up and down?
So it was crazy. She took a turn. She took a turn for the best, because this is the crazy thing is cancer didn't get her, and that might be what a lot of people think. It wasn't cancer. It was pneumonia, I believe, because she ended up having pericarditis, which is, I'm not fully sure the scientific stuff behind it, but there was a fluid building around her heart, and she was constricting her heart from breathing, and the fluid was infected, and infected her lungs, and her lungs were just like, they showed like an x-ray. It was kind of crazy. It was an x-ray, and it was like, it's supposed to be white that you're supposed to be able to see through, and it was just like someone just took like a paintbrush and just went like, and you just couldn't see anything. Couldn't see your ribs. It was just pure infection.
And that, as you're saying that, like, I'm starting to get things that are like coming back to me for like his last couple of days, because I remember, I think it was maybe not lucky is the wrong word, but like where we lived in Calgary at that time, so it didn't like, so it wasn't like you got like we weren't like out of our house kind of thing. Like when we'd go back at night, like we'd go to our home. Like, did you have family in Edmonton, or was it like hotel?
No, so but we were in the hotel, but like her siblings came out, and my cousin came out, and that was we were all there for like 10 days, and it's such a weird thing. Like, it was like the first time I had seen them in so long, and so it was like a nice thing to see them. But
it is weird. Like, anyway, so because as my dad was in his last couple of days too, like, we actually took him home on December 13th. So we took him home, and again, it was so crazy because like we were told that we were gonna start looking at like hospice, and like, you know what hospice is, like after, you know, that is
like the aftercare kind of thing.
Well, it's basically like there's nothing the hospital can do for you anymore,
right?
But you've got like 4 to 6 weeks,
right?
So you go there to like, apparently it's like nicer. I don't know. So we were in the room, and like a social worker came in, which is never a good sign. And like with like brochures, I was like, am I like signing up for like eHarmony? Like, what are we, what are we doing here? Like, it was very odd. But we were talking and we were looking at like hospice centers, and I just remember seeing like, my dad actually, he went to the washroom, and my mom like would help like him change and shower and whatever. And my mom came out after, and she was like sobbing. And I went out and talked to her after, and he apparently, when he was in there, he's like, Lynn, I'm not ready to die.
Shit, man.
I kind of wow, I haven't cried with this in a long time.
It's
but like,
good, bro.
It was that vulnerability of just being like, this guy's like, he's dead. He's not supposed to. Like,
no,
pass,
man. That was the thing for me, is like those words, and it's that acceptance of it is
seeing them accept it. That's the part where
that was
like,
when I heard my mom, because like basically what happened with my mom was she took a turn. She got better, and me and Jacob had to write an exam, because this is during exam season for me too, which was great, and him.
Same.
So right. And so he's going back to Fort Mac to write it, to write the exam.
Oh shit!
Because he was like, I can do it, and then so we drive back there.
It's crazy.
Because the doctor came.
Took a turn for the better. So you're like, okay, we'll go back.
Yeah. So she got off the ventilator and all that kind of stuff, and she was like, your mom's good, like she's coming to, things are good. So we go to Fort Mac, and we're working out, and then the next day, this is what I mean, the wave. And my dad calls us while we're at the gym, and Jacob is on the phone. He comes over to me, he's like, bro, we gotta go back to Edmonton, this is a day. And we're like, I was like, what? And he's like, this is like, you don't know how to handle it. I remember like being upset, but I'm like, bro, what is going on right now? Because I just came from Toronto, and my mom's like
it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's Christmas. And then like, it's like, your mom's going to die, or she's medevaced. Like, we're ready for the worst. And then no, she took a turn. She's good. Go. You're fine to go back. Doctor was like, no, you're good. Like,
Oh wow.
Yeah, like we like because I was like, we're not leaving.
Well, the main problem would have been like
exactly.
subsided, right?
And we were gonna come back within the like we were gone for 2 days and we were gonna come back because we were like, let's go work out, just being gym rats kind of thing.
Well, it was just like, let's take a day. Like you don't have to drive down right and then drive back. Like just take a day to recover a little bit.
Exactly. So he got a call. My dad was like, I don't know what he said, but Jacob was like, we gotta go and we gotta go now because I don't know what happened, what flipped. But we basically came back, and then it was basically like they basically had to make a decision, and it was basically my mom. It was basically you can either live and not be alive, or you can die, kind of thing.
Wow.
And that was just what it had come to, because like they could have put her back on the ventilators, and like they probably wouldn't have been able to take them out. Like she would have just been like assisted breathing her whole life, the remainder of her life, like, or you can. And then my mom was like, fuck, man,
that's a hard decision, man, because like we didn't. I guess my question was like, how did you have a choice? Like what, like how would it have?
It wasn't a choice.
Yeah,
it was a small percentage. They basically said it's going downhill.
Yeah,
it's going downhill. There's no stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
You have the slimmest chance of even whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like, now, like you have to, like, now you can either do this, like as soon as you're done having this conversation, we're going to either put you back to where you just were, which was not a good scene, or we're just going to like let you ride it out. And she was like, I want to see my boys, because we were gone, so we had to come back. And we came back probably the 17th, 16th, and then it was 2 days, and then it was we just hung out with her. But that was the good thing, was she was awake, because I never really got to talk to her. And I mean, like, you were talking to her, but I wasn't really talking to her. But like you were saying, man, it's that like, I remember like you're talking to her and she just says those things, like when she's like, I don't want to die. It's just like, and like in that moment, you don't know what to say.
No.
Like, how do I say it's going to be okay?
Yeah.
How do I say?
I know, because you can't just be like, because people think like, oh, you're like, oh, just keep fighting, like just keep going, like we're all here, like. I guess like, when did you go from like hope to acceptance?
Man, that was probably like a big thing for me and for my grief, was the acceptance part. And not being able to like say what I wanted to say in those moments, because you just don't know. You don't know what to say. Yeah. And like hers was just such I mean, it feels like the longest time when you're there with her in that moment of when she's passing, and you're trying to think of like, how do I process this? And like when she was awake, whenever she was just kind of going, like, what do I say? What do we talk about?
Because it is weird. Like, do you just make conversation?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, how do you?
And we couldn't even really barely talk to her, because she had to have assisted breathing. So like, and we didn't really want to, like, because she couldn't talk because she was so weak, kind of thing.
I remember, like, my dad, he had been used to like needles and blood work anyway, from being diabetic and like going through cancer and stuff. But he was never like he was never unconscious or like assisted breathing. Like I remember actually like the day before he passed, he was breathing like that for like an entire night.
Right.
Because they had him set up for something. There was like something in his blood that they had to like deoxygen. I don't know. I'm not gonna pretend to know. Apparently he had to like exhale like the carbon dioxide. I think.
Right.
You breathe it?
Yeah. Social teacher.
Bios across the hall, guys. It mostly just coffee comes out of my breath, but it was. I guess he had to do, and that was one of the rougher moments. And I've always, obviously, this is the part that sticks the most. But like, how did you like experience? What time did she pass?
Nighttime. It was the morning of the 19th, like early morning. Probably like midnight-ish, so like literally the dead morning of the 19th.
And were you like there, like when it happened?
Oh yeah. We were there through like me, my brother, and my dad, and it was during COVID too. So the doctors were amazing at the Cross Cancer, absolutely amazing because it was COVID, and we had like a kind of a younger doctor.
Yeah,
and
same actually.
We had my uncle, my 2 aunts, and my cousin, and you were only allowed 2 people in at a time.
This is during COVID.
This is during COVID, and she was in the critical care unit, so we were only allowed 1 person in a time whenever she was in that unit. She wasn't conscious then, but we were only allowed 1 at a time. But whenever she was conscious, I think they were allowing 2 at a time. And the doctor, she was getting moved to palliative, and the doctor basically said, like, close the curtain, bring them all in. And that was, so they all kind of came in, and we had like kind of a family moment. But my mom was a fighter. It was like 17 years she fought. No one would know that she was going through what she went through. And man, it sucks because it was very hard, but like it's something that's going to stick with me, and something I'm going to bring with my life is like when I talk about fighting till the end, it was a fight till the end. 100%. Like almost like just go please, like kind of thing. And it's like hard to think about, but it just like, that's my mom, man. Like she did not give up. So after that, all my family came in, and it was so hard on them too. Her sisters, her brother, and my cousin, her nephew. And they were like, he was having a hard time. They were having a hard time. They're like, we didn't know the time length. She was just getting moved, and it was just when she passes, she passes. So they'd come in for a day, and then they came the next day. And then we kind of made the decision, like, you guys are going to say goodbye, and that's going to be it. Because coming in every day, it's like, they're like, we got to see her that way she is, and all this. Like, we don't want to come in. Like, it's just hard for them. But me, my brother, my dad were like, we're thugging this out. And we slept on the floor. We sat by her side till she passed. The whole time we were just in there with her. Did not leave.
And I always found how people respond in the moment it happens. So I always found it was weird. Like my dad was kind of lying down in the bed, and as he was there, I could see where he was like breathing like in his neck.
Yeah.
I don't really know how. Like there was like someone like kind of like pulsing in his neck a little bit, and I could see it slowing down. And so it was 12:42 p.m. So it's like lunchtime. And it was at Foothills in Calgary. And I said to Cassidy, I was like, I think he's going.
Right.
Took 3 more breaths.
Why really?
And it was like
boom.
It was like, and then it just like I was like waiting for it to like come back out again.
Yeah.
And it just didn't.
Right.
And I was like,
there we go.
And time like froze. But then I was like, he's gone. And everyone, I think I said that. And everyone just kind of like stopped. And then my mom just like immediately left the room. She's like, I can't. Like she just like broke down. And then my first instinct was just to go tell the nurse.
Right.
It wasn't like I'm going to sit here and just like be with him.
Yeah.
It was like, I need to let someone know. And that maybe I like needed confirmation. I think we all kind of like his like thing went flat. Like it was. And she came in and like checked his heartbeat, and he was just like gone.
Right.
And then so like my mom left, but it was weird too because like 5 minutes before he pissed himself.
Right.
So he was classic Newfie man. He was wearing Lon Johnson long socks, no shirt, the classic fit, and like he was like starting to like we could kind of see him. Like it wasn't that like it was supposed to be tomorrow, but my middle brother actually had flown in like just a couple hours before.
Right.
So we kind of thought he was like holding off to. Because like my other brother lived in Edmonton, so he came down, but Josh flew from Fort McMurray. But like we sat around his body, my brothers and I, and like our significant others for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And was just like,
Felt like 3 days there, hey?
but it was like the eeriest moment of like peace. It just seeing him no longer in pain.
Yeah.
But also like we were around his body for like an hour before they they were obviously giving us our time to do whatever. But I don't know. That was like no one, I guess, like everyone kind of prepares you for the fight, but no one prepares you for like the hour after. Like, what do you do? Like when and it's just,
it's weird. It's, for us, it happened quick. So my mom was on, like, she could not breathe because it was her lungs that were infected.
Yes.
So my mom, she had the breathing on, and she had like 2, basically. She needed like an insane amount.
Yeah.
And she needed to either drink something or she wanted them adjusted. I remember we helped her take them off, and she was doing something, and they had her breathing monitor behind her, and we were like looking up, and it was like they had to keep it around 90. And it slowly would drop, like throughout that day, it was dropping 80s. And then she took it off. And then like within like second, like it was probably off for 30 seconds and went like 80, 70, 60, 50. And it went down to 30. And we were like, let's get this back on. Like, so that's kind of where she was at that last day. And then after she passed, we obviously had our time with her. And Jesus, man, like just thinking back to it, but like we sat there, we had our time, and like you don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And then like
do I move her?
And then like the thing was like, for me, I was like, you're gonna have to come literally tell me to leave if you wanted me to leave.
Yeah. But
like I think it came to a point where it was like, it's time to go. And I remember it was eerie. It was eerie because we were in this hospital in the middle of the night, not a soul there.
Yeah.
Empty. Like and it's a massive hospital, and it's like you're walking and you can hear the echoing like through the halls. And it's me, my brother, my dad, and a security guard, middle of the night. And I remember just walking down, and we're in like the foyer waiting for my cousin to come pick us up.
Yeah.
And I remember just like standing there thinking like what is my like life gonna be now? Like what is life kind of thing? Like I was just standing there like just literally just in like I don't even know the feeling. I was just standing there like, what is happening now? Like what do I do? What just happened? What is the past 20 years of my life? Like what was real then? What is, none of that. It's
like,
crazy.
What do you believe about your own past?
Yeah,
that,
man.
Like, because it was after I left, it just so happened that because my brother and myself followed the ambulance into Calgary at like 3 a.m. So this was like a 9-hour period back in the hospital.
Right.
Jesus. But I even remember that morning of kind of like, oh, everything's gonna be fine. We're just here again. My dad, we got to the hospital and they wheeled him in from the ambulance in the back. And it was my brother and myself. Like, my brother and I stopped at Tim's on the way. Jeez. We went and grabbed coffee. We're like, I guess it's early in the morning. Like, we'll grab coffee on the way. Maybe we'll get a sandwich, see if my mom wants anything. And I still remember the song we listened to on the way in was Hello Country by Stephen Lee Olsen. So every single time I hear that song, I think of the drive into the hospital, which is like a weird thing. But anyway, I get in and my dad gets like wheeled in on like a little stretcher, and my mom was there, and I'm like, fancy meeting you here, Rabbi. Like I was just trying to keep it light. Like I didn't think anything was serious. And then like I remember even it was like 7 or 8 o'clock, and the doctor was like it'll be within like 6 hours. We were like,
here we go.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And like my brother actually told me that first. I didn't believe him. So I went to go see, like, we were in like a back room, so I had to like go out and see like where my family was to kind of direct them through the hospital like when my brother got there. But yeah. And I remember like, I don't know, like where was your mom buried, if you want me asking?
PEI.
PEI.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I can't even imagine during COVID, but like my dad passed about 4 months before COVID.
Okay.
So that was actually like something I'm thankful for. If anything, like we didn't have any like restriction of like visiting or anything like that. But I remember like trying to going to pick out his casket. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then trying to like organize the flight to like get his casket back there. And like the whole time, like we like drove home back to our house in Calgary or Airdrie. And like, my whole family was there at our house. And like my dad was in like a fridge.
Yeah.
In a hospital.
Yeah.
That was the craziest part to me of like, his body's just in there.
Yeah.
He's in Calgary. Like his body. So that week of just chaos. And then, last thing I'll ask for today, we'll be doing this again.
Yeah, man. I feel like we could just sit here and talk forever, man.
What was Christmas morning like?
Oh, man. So our family's super traditional with Christmas.
Yeah.
We have like, we have a board game day, which is our Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And we just wake up, board games all day. Super competitive, obviously.
Yeah.
And
theme of the episode.
Yeah, super competitive. And it was weird, man, because you're trying. Your body is like, your mind is trying to tell yourself it's like normal. Mm-hmm. And I hated people saying this to me. They always said, oh, well, like, it's just your new normal. Just your new normal.
Shut up.
I'm like,
yeah,
there's nothing about this normal. Like, I get what you're trying to say. And I get I never get mad at anybody for the way, what they say to me or how they express their condolences. I never, because people are just trying to do it the best that they know.
Yeah.
But Christmas was always such a big like thing for our family because like we never went on any trips as a family because my mom had cancer. Mm-hmm. We could never really do anything like that. Mm-hmm. So Christmas was always like the big time of year for family, and it is for every other family, but you know,
especially
exactly. So, and for me, it was hard because I had just been in Toronto for months and was coming back to see my mom, and it was just like such a empty feeling. Like I don't know how, it's like an empty happiness because it's like, yeah, I don't even know, because inside you're just dead. And you're just like smiling and you're like opening gifts and like laughing and like, it was weird because I had family around and it was the first time I had been with family. So it's like, I'm happy I'm here with my family, but like, I don't know. It's just like a gray. It's gray.
It was crazy because like he passed December 20th. So December 19th, the morning of, I wrote my last final exam of the semester. I got an A on it.
Okay.
I know, but it was
it
was city politics. I was a bit more well-versed back then. But wait, I finished that exam and then I went to Mark's because he wanted new pajamas for Christmas.
Right.
And 2 days later I returned them.
Wow.
That was crazy.
Yeah, man.
Like having his Christmas gift like wrapped.
Yeah.
And like not knowing he would pass.
Yeah.
Just like taking it back. And like it was like the cashier doesn't know why I'm returning this. Like they're just going about their lives. Right? That
was the big thing. Like I remember, like it's not like it just is what it is, but like I was like, obviously my mom's passing was like super devastating. She had like a huge network of people, and even like her memorial was really hard because that was all during COVID, so you couldn't have everybody there, so it was like you had to pick people, and that was really hard. But it just like all this stuff happens, and you're walking around like that night, and like you're driving around, and like the world's just going on, and it was weird because it was like midnight, and the streets are kind of dead, and like I was literally just like, nobody cares. Like nobody. Like obviously people care, but like it
doesn't like
it just it just
the world doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. It just keeps moving. And like that was just, bro, we can have a part 2 and we can do the afterlife of this stuff, man. But
well, 'cause I remember like when I went out to go ask the nurse if if he was like actually had passed, people were like, oh yeah, I'm going on my break here now. Like there's like a big desk.
Yeah.
People like going on break, and I'm like, What do you mean
Yeah.
you're going on break? No,
Yeah.
stay. Like,
Yeah, man.
yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, sir. This
Brother,
won't be the last
I
time.
love this. I can talk for hours.
All right, man. Hello again, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen to our conversation here today. If there are any issues with professional conduct and or you would like to share your own story, experience, or have something you would like to contribute to the show, please reach out at mrclarkafterdark@gmail.com or send a direct message on Instagram to @mrclark.afterdark. Hope you all enjoyed, potentially found something of use, and of course, please do not forget to subscribe. See you next time, unless you're scared.